That'll be great. Yeah.
So we are.
Okay, so thanks everybody for coming in this very unusual day for putting it in the last day before the long vacation. Thanks for not leaving it so here. Today our topic is Git, and this would be one. I should mention this would be one of two meetups this month. I mean, we'll have another one at the end of the month, which would also be really interesting for some people that are talking. Not as interesting as today, because today's issue is just amazing. This is the topic that the presentation that I've been hearing so much about. It just couldn't. No pressure.
He's inflated expectations.
Absolutely. So today the topic is for Git, and as a person who basically knows 5 Git commands, I am really looking forward. I think the 5 Git commands that I know is I can list Git init, Git add, Git commit,
Git push force.
Git push, Git push force. And I heard that there is a rebase one which I think we'll hear a bit more about. Okay, and yeah, let's have this discussion. Misha, please.
Yeah, hi guys, I'm Mishu, Michael, and today we're going to talk about Git Panic and how to avoid it. So this presentation kind of started for me a couple years ago when I was working in another place, and I was the go-to guy when something went wrong with the Git. And they called me for, like, you know, the different rooms and the different teams, and like, well, how do we do that? How do we fix that? So I've been developing and gathering some, you know, wisdom on this too, and I think it's a very easy thing to use, especially if you understand what it does and how it does it. And today I'll try to summarize how I think about Git and some of the useful commands that or the options for the commands that I've discovered and how to think about them. So the goals for the presentation are basically to improve your personal productivity, to improve the team's productivity and team workflow, and to improve the confidence. So next time when you face a problem with Git, because everybody has that, wait, what am I supposed to do here? Is that, you know, the right thing to be doing? You have to be confident about not breaking stuff or how to get out of the tricky situations and stuff like that. And you get all that through better understanding of the concepts and the commands that Git provides. So some of the symptoms that you are experiencing Git Panic, like a good doctor gives you the symptoms. If you have those, you have to get checked. So just watch out. If you're using Git through the GUI only, some people are using source tree. I don't know. I've never used that. So I don't know. I don't know any other names for GUIs, but I'm sure there are a lot of them.
Crackman.
Maybe. So if your workflow is a mess, and we can talk about what that means in a little bit. By the way, if anybody has any questions, or if I'm talking too fast, or I'm missing something, just, you know, shout out. So if your history is a mess, and we'll talk about what that means and how to look at the history and how to make how to understand your history better. If you have a lot of conflicts that you think you can avoid, which is basically that your workflow is a mess. If you fix Git by cloning fresh repository, that's a big no-no, I guess. If you're blocked by people not pushing their work, or if you're forgetting to push your work at the end of the day and people are, I need that change and he didn't push it, that's a workflow issue as well. The two worst ones are if you start losing local changes, that's not good at all. And even worse, if you kind of delete somebody else's changes. That's the big bad one. So yeah.
And it's even worse if he pulls afterwards,
yes,
not
exactly.
realizing what he's doing.
There are ways to fix that, and we'll talk about that. So that's Git Panic, but I'm telling you, don't panic, because there are some pure vegan homeopathic solutions for this. And
are you going to sell us something?
So yeah, basically I'm selling, use the console, read the manual. The manual is written a bit, you know, highfalutin. It's not very clear. You have to put some time into reading the manual, but think about it as being academic. You know, reading the manual. Yeah, very nice. So when you start working, check your status and history often. So track where you are mentally, be aware of where you are in the history and in the state of your repository. Fetch your remotes often, and I'm saying fetch, not pull. And also push your branch often, which basically solves the we're blocked by this guy not pushing his stuff. Okay, and some more of those. It's a good idea for when working in a team to follow a commit message format, or even if not working in a team, that helps with analyzing the history, that helps in finding stuff that's being pushed to the repository, and also helps with generating change logs sometimes. You should name your remotes and branches meaningfully, so A1 or stuff is not a good name for either commit or a branch. And you should make Git help you, and Git provides some ways for you to, leverage some aliases, which is a big one, tagging and hooks that can make Git more easily accessible to you. So before we dive in, actually, is there anybody who considers themselves like a total Git newbie who never used it, or is just very, very at the beginning of his Git? Okay, great. You probably all know this then. So it's not something revolutionary, as Kostya told you. It's just what I've been, doing, and yeah. So first up, we start at the beginning, setting up a repository. So when doing git clone, you can use the -o option to provide a remote name other than origin, especially if you have multiple remotes in some workflows. There are workflows when you have multiple remotes, then origin is not particularly meaningful. So you can say this is the master or the production repository or whatever the repository is.
What it does?
What it does is it renames
just creates an alias?
Yeah, no, it renames the thing that you usually call origin. It renames it to whatever is
So I wouldn't make git push origin. I will make git push remote name.
Yeah, exactly. So you'll be pushing. That's if
So I
you
can have multiple clones of.
yeah, if you have multiple remotes.
Okay.
And another thing, when initializing the repository, there are two ways to create a new repository. The first one is just a regular repository for when you're using it on your dev machine and you want to just use Git regularly as a developer. The other way is the bare way, and then here put an example. So this is just initialized, normal Git repository initialized. In the bare repository, all the stuff that's inside the .git folder usually would actually be just in the top level folder. So you don't have a working tree. That's the difference. So when you initialize a repository with the --bare stuff option, then you don't get a working directory and you don't get any checkout problems. So that's very useful when you create a remote. For example, you have a Git repo on your server and you want to share to be a shared repository with some other developers, so you make it a bare repository. That's the best practice there. Okay, so setting up aliases. This is very simple. You just go git config. You can add the --global, which makes that alias accessible on any Git repository. If you skip that, you can make a local alias, which is very useful in some situations. For example, you want to make an alias specific to this particular project, which is very good in some situations. You have commands that you do over and over again, and you don't want them to be you don't want to type out 10 words or something like that. You want it to be easy. So some of the ones I regularly use are inoffensive. Are checkout, I just say CO. I see the branches with BR and it's verbose, so it gives me not only the branch name, but also the commit SHA, the short commit SHA, and the message for that commit, so you know where the branch is at the current point. And the best one I have is LG, and I'm using a slightly different version than that, but I'll talk about it. So, and we'll see what LG does next. So it gives you a nice format of the history. So this is the project history. If you run git log, or what I call LG, git log --o, this is optional, and you use the -graph option, and you specify a format. And instead of getting a huge single commit for 10 lines, you get this thing here, which is a graph representation of your repository. And I think most of you have seen this. Has anybody not seen this? Yeah, all of you have seen this. So I wouldn't spend that much time on it. An interesting thing when you're using Git log, you can actually filter by the author name. You can filter by date. You can combine those filters. You can put since or before as well. Or you can exclude the author by putting a regex here instead of a string. And you can use the double and triple dot notation to make difference, to see the differences between two branches, and I'll show you in a picture what that is. The last option here, log minus p, gives you actually a full patch for each commit. So when I do git log minus p, for each of these commits, it would print it in the same way, but it wouldn't be on a single line. It would actually contain a full patch of the commit inside the history here. Okay, so commit ranges. This is the double and triple dot ranges. When you use git log, basically this is what it means. When you put git log a dot dot b, it only shows you the commits that are on the B branch or the B referent, the B ref, since the branch point. And if you use a triple dot, then it shows you both the histories of A, or how they diverge, the histories of A and B, but not the common commits from since they merged. And now I can show you a live example in a second. Okay, so this is very useful, and I also put this option here, minus minus left right. And what this does is it replaces the star that denotes a commit in the history of the graph. It replaces it with either a greater than or a less than symbol, depending on which side of the split you're on. So if I go git lg a dash dot 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 b, minus minus left right, all the commits that are on the left would have a left or the less than bracket, and all the commits that are on the right would have the larger than bracket. So that's really useful for understanding when you fetch the remote and you want to see, hey, what happened on the remote, what did I do, and you can just compare that really easy with this command.
May I ask you about
Yeah,
the
sure.
commit messages? In the previous slide, you showed a few commit messages. Some
Yeah.
of them are fixed, some of them are fixes.
Yeah.
Which one do you think is a better option?
Well, what do you
Or
mean?
it doesn't matter for as long as the whole
Depends
thing.
of the verb. That
Oh yeah, I put a bad example here. It's not a good example. I didn't follow my own advice, so.
Yeah,
Yeah.
So what's your advice?
Well, there are two schools. My advice is to be consistent within the team. So whatever the team decides, be consistent with that. Well, this is just me working on that, so I didn't, I wasn't consistent with it myself, basically, which is not surprising. Yeah, so you can either think about it as what we did in this commit, or in this commit we pushed something or changed something or something like that, or you can think this commit, and you finish the sentence basically. This commit introduces changes or changes this or fixes that. So it could be either present tense or past tense. You can have a much more elaborate structure of the message if you need to. Usually you want to keep it short, so it has to be expressive. You want to keep your commits also kind of small. When you squash, you want to have, for example, a Jira ticket or some link to the card that actually describes the story that you did in that commit. So that's really useful in that case. Also, one thing is don't repeat the same error messages, even if you're doing multiple commits like fixed, 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 and you have 5 fixed commits one after the other. That's awful. Yeah, but here I used fixed polling, and then it fixes Docker. So, well, this commit fixes Docker, and then I fixed polling. So.
Makes sense.
Kind of, yeah, but consistency is the best advice regarding commit messages. Okay, so next up we got reflog, which is the history of your branch. So this is when you type git reflog and then the branch name, or if you type head, it would give you the reflog of the current branch you're on. So this is the way that the commit, so it gives you a list of the commits that the branch pointed to at any time. So you have here, for example, master first pointed to this commit, then it pointed to this, then to this, and now it's master at 0.
Can
It's
you
actually-
limit the history?
in what way?
Why?
Oh yeah, you
Number
can.
of lines.
You can do since it actually contains.
Just as a number, like, give me the last 10.
Oh yeah, definitely. You can
How
just.
you do that?
I mean, I think I have to read the manual,
Okay.
but I think it's just you write minus
Okay.
n10 or something like
Okay.
that. Or by the way, when you do that in your shell, it would actually give it in a more kind of way. So you just type. So it gives you a couple, and then you can press arrow down to get more of them. Right.
5 to less.
I can show. I
So
can
you
show
use
it.
a pager, yeah?
Let's see, if I type git reflog, so it gives it, so head, so here I only have one on this repository, I don't know what this is. But this
It's a
is,
cost comparison.
yeah, obviously. So this repository has a very messy history, that's why I chose it.
But this logging is because of your settings, or it's...
Oh yeah, this is git lg. So if I now type, so I'll just clear the console, and if I type git config alias.lg, it would actually print
Okay.
the alias that I'm using. So
Is there, like, gist for this settings?
I can make one, yeah. I've copied this specific one of the internets, and the difference between this and the one I put in the presentation is that it adds some color to it. So it makes the refs yellow, it makes the committer name blue, and that's green, I guess, if I know my colors. Yeah, so right now in this repository, I cannot show you like limiting the reflog because it only has one in the reflog, but if we go to the actual Git repository of the presentation that I'm giving you, I think I have more than that. So let's see, and 10, yep, and 10 works. So that's getting just the top 10 the reflog. Okay, this is very useful. You can actually use, and I'll continue in a second explaining that, you can actually reference your commits in a lot of ways. And for this, I didn't want to put anything on the presentation because it's hard to explain, so I'll just draw something. So let's say we have a couple of commits in that nice way that we saw just now, and they split for some reason, and they join back, and something like that. So head is here, and master is here. And if we go here, so the first line tells us you can exclude any commit or any reference by putting a caret in front of it and putting the ref name. So let's say that in this history, or we can use the history of the project that this project that we had, although I'm not sure if so cost per person. So okay, let's see here. So this is a messy history, and let's say I want to exclude any commits that are ancestors of this specific one. So I'll just copy the ref name here. So this, I just copy that, and then I can say git, and I can use almost any command on this, and I can say lg caret and the commit name, sorry, and the commit, and it didn't show anything because I'm kind of stupid. So doing this, so I'm showing, give me all the commits that are referenced by master, but not by the ancestors of this particular commit. So it limits the history to all the commits that happened after the commit I just gave it. Does that make sense? Yeah? Okay, so if we look at the slides again, the second one is, so there's two ways to reference the ancestors of commits. The one way is with the tilde, and you can put a number behind that, or you can use the appropriate number of carets after the name of the commit. So these are equivalent, but they're very different from this one, and very, very different from this one. So this kind of makes very, very logical sense. So if we, again, just look at the history of master. So if I don't type any arguments here, it assumes head. So head is the assumed commit that you're working with if you don't type anything else. So here we see a couple of commits. We have a merge commit at the top, which has two ancestors, this one and this one. So if I want to follow the left lineage of this commit, and I want to get to, let's say, this one here, 755, I can reference that by saying git log head or master, doesn't matter here in this case. I can say either this, caret caret, so it goes to that commit, 755, or tilde 2. Okay, and it's the same. But if I want, let's say it was a merge commit, and that's the situation here, I want to get the second parent of that commit, I can use a caret 2 to get to that. So let's see that in action. I'll just print that again. At the top we have 091. It has the free AC as the one parent and the E2C as the second parent. So I want to get to the second parent, so I can say caret 2, and I get to the second parent. If I said caret, just caret, it would say, it would get me the